So Paul Stanley, a founding member of the legendary band Kiss, and his alter ego in that band was called Starchild. And here's the thing. As far as I can tell, Paul Stanley never believed that he was actually from space. It appears that he always understood that he was playing a character in the band. There's absolutely no evidence that he ever demanded people use pronouns referring to him like Star Self. He was pretending to be a character, Starchild, in the band, and he understood in reality he wasn't. Seems like the complete opposite of these days, right? These days you'd say, I identify as Star Self. That's my gender. It's somehow non-binary. Here's the headline. Kiss's Paul Stanley. Normalizing gender transition for kids is a dangerous fad. So he published this on Twitter. He says, my thoughts on what I'm seeing. He says, there is a big difference between teaching acceptance and normalizing and even encouraging participation in a lifestyle that confuses young children into questioning their sexual identification as though some sort of game, and then parents in some cases allow it. There are individuals who as adults may decide reassignment is their needed choice, but turning this into a game or parents normalizing it as some sort of natural alternative, or believing that because a little boy likes to play dress-up in his sister's clothes or a girl in her brother's, we should lead them steps further down a path that's far from the innocence of what they are doing. With many children who have no real sense of sexuality or sexual experience caught up in the fun of using pronouns and saying what they identify as, some adults mistakenly confuse teaching acceptance with normalizing and encouraging a situation that has been a struggle for those truly affected and have turned it into a sad and dangerous fad. And what does he mean here with this? Encouraging a situation that has been a struggle for those truly affected and have turned it into a sad and dangerous fad. What he means is that gender dysphoria is actually quite rare, genuine gender dysphoria. But now we're seeing a sharp increase in self-identification. And why? We know what he's talking about there. We've seen the videos of the teachers talking about how they tell the children that they can just come up with their own. They don't know what they are. They can just come up with their own pronouns. They can just be anything. It's just simply not true. It is literally turning it into a game for them. And here, because a little boy likes to play dress up in his sister's clothes or a girl in her brother's. Yeah, that doesn't actually mean anything. It doesn't mean the little boy is actually a girl or the little girl is a boy. These are phases that kids go through and just grow out of. And one thing that I find amazing about this is that where's the room for people to just be gay or lesbian? According to this modern gender theory, they're all trans. And here, children who have no real sense of sexuality, of course they don't. They're just little kids. They don't know what the adults are talking about. They don't have any idea what any of this actually means. They just know that it's being promoted by adults. And they trust adults because they're kids. And they also know that this is a way they can actually get attention. And that is what is truly dangerous about this. You have vulnerable kids who want attention, even if it's the worst possible kind of attention they can get. So my thoughts are that Paul Stanley is spot on with this. And will he be in for some cancellation? Probably. But he doesn't give a shit. He's 71. But you know what? He's actually being backed up by what I think is actually a pretty unlikely figure. Remember Dee Snider? He was the singer of Twisted Sister. He's been in the news a little bit lately because, he's calling Trump supporters maggots and fascists and blah, blah, blah. He demanded that anti-mask advocates stop using the "We're Not Gonna Take It" song. He said, no, these selfish a-holes do not have my permission. So he's a leftist these days, and usually with a leftist, you can predict every single thing they're going to support or not support. So it's actually out of character for somebody who would have those views to agree with Paul Stanley on this. Because that fascist label that he throws around at Trump supporters is definitely going to be lobbed at Paul Stanley as well now. But here's what he said in response to Paul Stanley's tweet. You know what? There was a time when I felt pretty too. Glad my parents didn't jump to any rash conclusions. Well said, Paul Stanley. It's kind of funny because he actually looks more like a woman than a lot of actual trans people these days.
Excuse me, it's ma'am.
So what does this tell us? This tells us that the radical gender theory being pushed on children, this is alarming people across party lines. This is not popular. This is fringe. The only people who support this are fringe. The fringe left and the mainstream media, like CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, they're with the fringe on this stuff, as they are with much, actually. And I don't think it matters what euphemisms they use. Euphemisms like gender-affirming care. It is so brazenly dishonest. It is so brazenly the opposite of what it actually is. And you really shouldn't have to be smarter than a teleprompter reader on MSNBC to figure that out, should you? Anyway, please subscribe, like, and share. Sharing really helps me out. I thank you for that. I will see you next time.